Hello, love. So, coming to you with another trend, I want to talk about this because it's been trending, and basically, it's women saying, I will not date a man who has never felt a father's love, who doesn't know what it means for a father to love them. So, basically, the women are saying that they will not date men with absent fathers, and I just want us to talk about it, right? One thing that I learned dating in my 30s versus dating in my 20s is that I am only interested in dating one person. I'm only interested in being friends with one person. And who is that person? A healed person. It doesn't matter if you come from a two family, the best grandmother, the best grandfather. It doesn't matter how you were raised. What matters is how you have decided to heal. Now, you know that when you're growing up, you want to sign a document, right? They'll say, who is your guardian and stuff like that. They need your parent, they need a parent or a guardian to sign on your behalf or to sign as a witness. Now, when you grow up and you start filling forms, you realize that those things and forms are no longer available. Why? Because there's a certain age you get to, and society expects that at this age you should be able to take decisions for yourself. That is why even when a crime is committed, the way they will treat a kid to a teenager and an adult is not the same, because they feel like, oh no, you are responsible for your actions now, regardless of the kind of family you came from, regardless of the kind of family that you are brought up or you were brought into, right? When you grow up as an adult, you start making your own decisions. So the only people that we are interested in are people who have taken time to heal, because we all have trauma. No matter how small you feel like that trauma is, or no matter how negligible you feel like it is, especially for we Africans, because typically for Africans, things like therapy, talking about trauma and all is often laughed out at, overlooked. Like, oh, everybody will tell you like, oh, our parents did this to us but we came out okay. Did we really come out okay? And I have this motto that I keep saying that everybody needs therapy. The old me wouldn't have said it, right? I grew up in a Nigerian home, I grew up in a Christian home. How did we solve issues? You have to go talk to your pastor, and your pastor is telling you that if Esther in the Bible could endure this, then you can endure it. And you cannot relate because you're like, I'm not Esther in the Bible, right? But when I grew up and I started understanding the importance of therapy, right? I used to think, oh, because I didn't really come from that kind of deep background, that I didn't have unlearning to do. No, I have a lot of unlearning to do, because my parents took care of me or brought me up the way that they felt is okay. Yeah, because they trained from how they were trained as well. Now we have better resources, right? Because we have internet, we have access to more things that they didn't have access to. So we now have an opportunity to learn. For a lot of them, they didn't even have the opportunity to know or decide if they wanted to be parents, if that made sense. Yeah. So my first experience with someone that made me know that, a nice person is a nice person regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of where they are from, is my experience in school, right? So the first time I went to school, the first year, that was my first time really experiencing, racism. So when I got to the second session and I was in the writing class, now one thing they do in the writing class is that they let you pour how you feel, go in there, go to your deepest D's, and if you've ever been to a writing class, it's really dramatic. So I stood up, and the story I had to tell was that the first class that I had, or the first session that I had, that I didn't quite like it because the people there were racist and, they didn't blah, blah, blah. I just had a lot to say. And this guy stood up, right? He's an Italian guy. He stood up and he said, oh, Sarah, I just heard what you said. And I was raised by a single mother. My father walked out on us when we were kids, and my mother raised me. And because of that, I made a conscious decision that I was not going to sit back and ever let a woman be treated wrongly, because I have seen my mom being abused, and I've seen my dad leave, and I've seen my mom take over. So I made up my mind that day that even if I'm passing on the street and I see a woman, being harassed or something, I will stick out for that woman. And he told me that as long as I am in this class, you will never get to experience that ever again. And throughout my entire time in that school, he was never inappropriate. He was always checking on me, always making sure I was involved, always like, oh, don't worry, I'll pick you, I'll drop you. Like, he was one of the kindest people that I've ever met. Now, that is someone who took a situation and said, yes, my father treated my mother this way, but because of that, I am going to make sure that no woman I come across is treated that way, because that is a man that healed. Now, I forgot his name, but one of this Kardashian drama, right? I saw a video of her. Is it? I forgot the name, sorry, of her talking to the sister's boyfriend that used to cheat and all that. And he said that he grew up in a home where his mother was constantly being abused by the father, that the father would cheat on the mother, even bring the girls home, but the mother never left, and the mother always stayed. If anything, the mother tried to cover up, and he grew up thinking, like, I don't know how he said again, whether he grew up thinking that was okay. Now, that's why he's doing the things that he's doing. Now, that is a man that did not heal, because you know what, his father didn't work out. So that's a man that grew up in a 2-parent home, but he is more damaged than someone that grew up in a 1-parent home, because that person acknowledged that this is abuse and I never want to go through that situation. So if there's anybody you're supposed to be saying that you don't want to date, is someone that hasn't healed, because some people grow up in a 2-parent household, like the example that I gave, but it's better the dad wasn't even there, because they didn't even get to experience true love. The father was just there, but he wasn't there. Now let's talk about African men. For example, African women are prepared for marriage from the day they give birth to them, but not the men. So a lot of African men are not typically affectionate, they're not emotionally there. They are just meant to believe that they're just there to bring money. Of course, a lot of unlearning is going on now. So that person now grew up with a 2-parent but did not feel any kind of love. And I say something, I said, you cannot give what you don't have, not you cannot give what you have not experienced. It is two separate things. You might never have experienced love from your father, but you know what it is to love. So you have enough love in you to give. You might not have experienced love from your mother, but you know what it means to love someone. Everybody in this life knows the difference between bad and good. When we are hurting someone and it's not good, trust me, even a bad person knows that this thing I'm doing is not good. So whether you grew up in a 2-parent household or one, the question is, do you have love to give? Have you healed? What step have you taken to become a better version of you? Now, this women saying this thing, right? I am not also going to downplay how they feel, because one actually said that there has been a pattern, because everybody that she has dated that treated her bad, that they never felt a father's love, and that's why she's saying that. Now, when there is a pattern, you also need to check yourself. I used to be that person, right? I used to have issues. Like, I had friends who did not appreciate me. I used to give in my all, and I'll just as human beings, you're giving so much, but when it's time for them to be there for you, nobody's there for you. And there was just a pattern of the same kind of people that I attracted. But when my healing came, or when I became a better version of myself, was when I stopped blaming other people and said, Sarah, there is a reason you are attracting this set of people. There's a reason you are attracting people that are not treating you with respect, because you know what? You hadn't learned boundaries. And that was when I learned and understood the importance of boundaries. I wasn't setting any clear boundaries. I didn't have boundaries. It was anything went. Like, this is it. As long as I love you, as long as I mess with you, anything goes. But I needed to understand that I need to respect myself before I can ask for respect. Like, I need to demand that. I need to know that this is not what I want for myself. I need to know when to walk away and when to stay. And when I started applying that, I realized that I started attracting the right people, and I stopped attracting those people with those same pattern. Have you ever been with someone who treated you really bad, but then you see the person with someone else and the person is treating the person well, because the person set clear boundaries and the person was not going to let that happen? It's like a child, right? When a child cries about something and you give them, the next day they cry about something, you give them. They now know that, oh, there's a pattern. When I cry about this thing, I get it. So let me cry about it, right? I don't need to ask for it. All I need to do is cry for it. So you as the parent, if you allow the child to keep using you or keep using that tear as a weapon, that's what's going to be. And at the end of the day, before you know it, it's too late. So everybody deserves healing. Everybody deserves a chance, and everybody deserves healing. I'm saying this because if we go on with that mentality of, I don't want to date someone whose father wasn't there or whose mother wasn't there, you are definitely going to attract the wrong people. Because first of all, you're already going in the mindset of, I am only going to date someone who had a father and a mother involved in their life. And it doesn't matter if that involvement was like what the other guy said, an involvement that meant that they were not properly trained. So that's the same way that they are going to give it to you. Does that make sense? So I feel like the mindset should shift. Like I said, ask yourself, why am I attracting these people with the same pattern? It doesn't have anything to do with their fathers being absent. It has everything to do with the fact that they don't take responsibility. It has everything to do with the fact that they have refused to heal, because you have to first take responsibility. Have you ever argued with someone who doesn't believe they're in the wrong? There is nothing you will say that will convince that person that what you're saying is true, because the person has decided that, listen, I am not wrong, I am not wrong. So you're like, I can't have this conversation with you. But if you talk to someone who is willing to say, oh, I was wrong here, I take responsibility for that, watch how that conversation goes. So if there's one thing that I've learned about dating in my 30s, but whether it's friendship, I just keep bringing in friendship into it, is that go for people that take responsibility for their actions, that don't blame anybody. Go for people that have healed, right? Healing is the word. Healing is the one. A lot of people train or love from a place of trauma. Yeah, a lot of people love from a place of trauma. Yeah, and that's why you see that some people are too clingy, right? Like they're too clingy, and then that's also a trauma, because it's like, oh, maybe someone walked out on them, or they had parents that were like so in their way, and that's the kind of love that they are used to. Yeah, so sometimes it's not even like so much in that negative way we think, but as you know, when something becomes it now becomes too much. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like, to attract the right people, you heal, because I also believe that you as a person, when I see people say, I want someone that is this, that is that, that is this, that is that, I'm like, okay, that's fair, but are you that friend you want to be? You want someone that will be there for you, that will check up on you, that will be nice, that will go to the earth and bring the moon and hand it to you. Are you willing to also go to the world and bring the moon for somebody? Are you willing to also go through all this? Because it starts with you. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, is you don't have to give what you have not experienced. What do you have? If you don't have love in you, you can't give love. Some people came from a, so to say, perfect home, but they don't know how to give love. Yeah, because they don't know how to give love, but they have experienced love. And you don't have to have a father figure, a mother figure to know what love feels like. Yeah. There are a lot of things that we didn't learn from the house, but when we see it, we know. I saw a comment on one of the videos that I really love. He said, my case was even worse. I grew up with no father, no mother. My father walked out. My mother was a junkie, and I grew up like from one foster care to the other. And he said, I have been married now for over 25 years because I made a decision that I didn't want to be like my mother, and I didn't want to be like my father. So the things that I grew up, I did not like, I made sure that that was not going to apply to my family. I didn't have any dad to teach me that. I didn't have any mom to teach me that. But I knew that this is the right thing to do. I watched it in movies. I saw it. I felt it. I know how I felt. And I promised myself that my kids will never get to experience this. That is a man that healed. And that is a man ready to love and ready to give love. So don't block your chance of meeting a good person because you have a pattern. And like I said, I will never undermine how someone feels. So if you're feeling like this is what I keep attracting, and you go back and, like, we do it a lot in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we do it a lot. We play the tribal game a lot. If you attract 5 Yoruba men or 5 Igbo people and they were not nice to you, some people just have a thing for a particular tribe because of what maybe 3 people did to them. Say, have you noticed that these people that keep betraying me are from this certain tribe? Have you noticed? But what we have refused to do is to look back and say, what am I doing that is making me attract unkind people? What am I doing that is making me attract people who do not care about my feelings? Then by the time you go back to the drawing board, you will notice that you are ready, because you're just a healed person and you're ready to meet another healed person. Let me know your thoughts. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Share your experience as a community. Let us talk. And please be respectful of other people's comments and opinions. So please do not forget to subscribe, comment, like, all that great stuff. Thank you once again, and stay blessed.